Before we take our seats, we'll have the national prayer, which is the second stanza of our national anthem. I believe we all have copies of the program, but I kick it off. O God of creation, Amen. Please be seated. The special guest of honor, Major General Babagana Monguno, National Security Advisor to the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, members of the police management team here present, former Inspectors General of Police here present, and we have quite a number of them. We will recognize them in the course of the program. The Acting Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, representatives of the Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, and of the Controller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service, the Honorable Minister of Interior, here represented, the Controller General of the Correctional Services, also here represented, the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, my Lord, Honorable Justice Olukayode Ariwola, here represented, the President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Ayuba Waba, MNI, our Royal Fathers, our Lords spiritual and temporal, decorated officers of the Nigeria Police, and the various services here present, including the Nigerian Army, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The Nigeria Police Force, in conjunction with Solar Security and Consult Company Limited, is hosting a series of workshops across the 6 geopolitical zones on election security management. As we know, it's just about 6 months to next year's 2023 general elections. And in a proactive step, the Nigeria Police Force is collaborating with Solar Security to kick off the series of workshops with this national opening event. So, over the next 2 days, today inclusive, We shall have the formal opening ceremony and the kickoff of lectures and interactions shortly thereafter. We will recognize in the course of this opening ceremony the galaxy of distinguished personalities and key influencers in the electoral process, as well as those who will ensure the integrity, freeness, and credibility of the process who are here in this audience. Permit me, a special guest of honor, the chief host, and other distinguished guests, too. Before inviting the chief host to present his opening remarks, kindly crave your indulgence to view an introductory documentary. It will take, I understand, just about 120 seconds, namely 2 minutes. Are we ready to roll?
You're welcome to the Election Security Management Workshop of the Nigerian Police Force. The Nigerian Police Force understands its great You're welcome to the Election Security Management Workshop of the Nigerian Police Force. The Nigerian Police Force understands its great responsibility towards ensuring the conduct of a free, fair, and secure election, and has, in collaboration with Solar Security and Consult Company Limited, conceived an elaborate election security management workshop to train its officers and facilitate an interagency collaboration for 2023. The Election Security Management Workshop competent security consultant firm with a history of integral participation in security enlightenment and management for different purposes, including elections, has improved confidence in the ability of the police to protect the integrity of the election in 2023. The training forms part of reforms and upgrade agenda of IGP Usman Baba to strengthen and build the capacity of the Nigerian Police Force, particularly as the country heads into an important election year. The election security management of the Nigerian Police Force has assembled a rich list of professionals and trainers, including leaders of the Nigerian security, media, and legal institutions such as IGP Usman Baba, former IGP Solomon Arase, NBA President Olumide Akpata, and media guru Mr. Kingsley Osadolo, who will deliver multidimensional and interagency values and expert knowledge in preparation for the coming elections. The robustness of this election security management workshop by the Nigerian Police Force can be seen in the distribution of speakers and their competencies. And what that showcases is the readiness of the Nigerian police to ensure peaceful and credible elections that attain global standards through partnership with diverse but important stakeholders like civil society organizations, the media, psychological health professionals, and legal experts. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the national opening ceremony, which will flag off the training, and thank you for honoring our invite.
For that introductory clip. You will have to pardon me for some omissions in the meantime, although I did acknowledge that we would recognize the dignitaries amongst us. I'm partially sight-blinded by the lights coming from my right side, so I was unable to immediately see the phalanx of service chiefs who are in our midst this morning. I will also have to be pardoned because he is wearing a face mask and that has tended to obscure my full view of the dignitaries I'm about to recognize. Please let's welcome the Honorable Minister of Police Affairs, Alhaji Dr. Muhammad Megere Dingyadi, Katukan, Sokoto. Honorable Minister of Police Affairs, we're glad to have you this morning. Permit me to also recognize the service chiefs in our midst. Earlier, I recognized the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo. We also have here the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, along with his brothers who are the service chiefs in charge of the Navy and the Air Force. The presence of these dignitaries in our midst and for this national opening ceremony of the series of election security management workshops would underscore the importance that is attached to security as a sine qua non for the successful conduct of next year's elections. And this is against the background of what we are currently going through as a country and what the security and intelligence services are also doing to normalize the situation. Special guest of honor, the service chiefs, honorable ministers here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to humbly invite the chief host, who is the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, PSC Daga, to give his opening remarks at this national opening ceremony. The Inspector General of Police.
Thank you, Ban. The special guest of honor of this program, in person of Major General Retired Babagana Munguno, the NSA, the Honorable Minister of Police Affairs and other ministers present here, particularly the Minister of Information, the Chief of Defense Staff, the service chiefs, all the retired Inspector Generals of Police that are present here, heads of security agencies and safety agencies present here, the Chairman INEC, the Rep of the Chief Judge, our royal fathers present here, members of the post management team, senior military, police, and other security agencies that are present here, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to welcome our esteemed guest to this event, which marks the opening ceremony and national flag-off of the Election Security Management Workshop that is being organized by the Nigeria Police Force in conjunction with Solar Security and Consult Company Limited. Election security governance is critical to the advancement of democratic culture across the free world. In Nigeria, by virtue of the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, the Nigeria Police Force is the lead agency in the election security process. The force is, however, complemented by the military, the intelligence community, and other security and safety agencies. The import of this is that the success of every election is determined not just by the strength of the legal framework regulating the costs, but by a few other key variables. First is the depth of the professional knowledge and operational competence of the police and other complementary security actors. Second is the electoral space in terms of the security realities of the country. And the third one is the extent of the professional bond among the security agencies on the one hand, and between the security agencies, independent electoral commission, and other strategic stakeholders in the electoral process on the other hand. Whichever way we look at these variables, the reality remains that the Nigeria police is fundamental to the drive to guarantee an internal security space that will be free of threats that could expose our democratic heritage to risk and other conducive environment enough for the electoral cycle, which is the critical component of the democracy, to be fulfilled. Over the years, however, there have been questions on the professional capacity of the Nigeria police and other security agencies in relation to the performance of their election security mandate. In addressing these concerns, efforts have been constantly made by the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and the successive leadership of the Nigeria Police Force to translate into improved election security operations by the Nigeria Police, as evidence of many other engagements that have been organized to ensure and educate security officers of their role during electoral process. Mindful of this critical role in election security value chain and conscious of the need to continually broaden its professional knowledge and operational capacity with a view to closing the knowledge gap that could inhibit optimal delivery of our election security by our security officers, there is need to constantly engage all our security officers of the need to know what they need to do and what they need not to do during election process. And it is for this purpose that such workshop is necessary to enlighten all the stakeholders in the security management of the election. This initiative, which is being delivered under the theme, the 2023 general election, enhancing national security capacity for a secure and credible electoral process in Nigeria. This is the theme of our conference, and this is the theme of our workshop. It's part of the broad action plan of the force leadership to prepare police personnel and other security agencies to confront the 2023 general election. It is a train-the-trainer program or workshop in which participating officers will be supported to transfer the knowledge to be acquired in this workshop to a wider personnel of their various security outfits. Under this phase, about 400 officers will be trained across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. For ease of participation, the exercise has been decentralized and will hold in centers across the 6 geopolitical zones from the 4th of August to 31st of August. The centers comprise of Abuja for North Central, Benin City for South-South, Borno for Northeast, Enugu for Southeast, Ibadan for Southwest, and Kano for Northwest. Professional and expert facilitators drawn from the Independent National Electoral Commission, serving and retired security experts in the military and other services, the academics and civil society organizations have been engaged to deliver a series of lectures to participants on topics that are to cover: 1, role of security agencies in electoral process, electoral crisis management, human rights issues in election security operations, and the legal framework of elections in Nigeria. Security threats analysis, which will be dissect and current security situation and explore strategies that could mitigate ahead of that could mitigate the situation ahead of the general elections. Other topics include role of the political stakeholders and other actors in election security, security for vulnerable groups during elections, media relations and security functions, electoral offenses investigation and punishment, civil societies and monitoring of electoral process, standards and principles of elections. These are what to be discussed during these 3 days workshop. There will also be a case studies that will draw on practical electoral occurrences at previous election security situations in exposing participants to hand-on components of election security preparations in Nigeria. In order to engender an all-inclusive training slots were allocated to some ministries, departments, and agencies that play a complementary role in the election security process to participate in the workshop. They include the Office of the National Security Advisor, the military, the DSS, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Nigeria Immigration Services, the Nigerian Customs Service, the Nigerian Correctional Service, Federal Road Safety Corps, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, National Identity Management Commission, the National Youth Service Corps, National Orientation Agency, and the Ministry of Interior, among others. These are departments that we hope that will take part in this workshop, and they are all key in the management and the provision of security during election process. The following 5 key outcomes are expected at the completion of this training. 1, we are hoping and we hoped we will achieve that at the end of this workshop, 1, there should be a robust interagency collaboration towards effective security governance during the 2023 general elections and in other future joint electoral security operations. Secondly, we also hope to achieve an enhanced knowledge of security agents on election security management, drawing on global best practices. Thirdly, we also hope to achieve development in an election security management protocol that will act as the standard security management template for future election at all levels in Nigeria. It is anticipated that the documents will act as a credible reference document for all security agencies and other strategic stakeholders within the electoral system in Nigeria. Fourthly, appreciation of peculiar election security threats and the specific approaches towards managing them at various stages of the electoral process, starting from the campaign period to the election day and the announcement of result. The role of the security agents will be explored. Fifthly and lastly, knowledge of current pattern and trends of crimes and internal security threats and pathways to mitigating them, and destabilizing the security order ahead of the 2023 general election. As part of efforts to ensure the sustainability of the gains of this initiative, we plan to develop all the workshop presentations into a publication which will be launched in due course. When published, it will serve as a credible, professional, and academic reference book on election security in Nigeria. We have also resolved to incorporate election security management models into the training curriculum of the Nigeria Police Force for purpose of entrenching it into our professional training structure in our police colleges. In addition, we are in discussion with some civil society organizations and development partners, particularly the Embassy of the United States of America and that of Germany, towards partnering with them in supporting the knowledge transfer phase of these workshops at state command levels. At this juncture, I wish to immensely appreciate Mr. President for the continuous support of the Nigeria Police Force. I assure His Excellency and indeed the citizens of this great nation of the commitment of the Nigeria Police Force under my watch to pursue actions that will stabilize the current internal security situation and deepen democratic practices in our beloved country. Towards this end, we shall continue to ensure that requisite orientation and adequate preparations are made to guarantee professional service delivery by the Nigeria Police Force and ensure strong interagency synergy that will engender a peaceful, secure, and credible elections in 2023 in line with Mr. President's vision. On this note, I heartily welcome you all to this event and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should continue to bless our beloved country. I thank you all for your rapt attention.
Please, one appreciate the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, for his welcome remarks. Let's appreciate him one more time. The special guest of honor and service chiefs here present, I earlier recognized the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, Alwal Zubairu Gambo, and the Chief of the Air Force, Marshal Isiaka Amao. Let me also respectfully acknowledge the presence in our midst of His Royal Highness Dr. Shehu Yamusa III, the Emir of Kefi in Nasarawa State. He's here representing the Sultan of Sokoto. Please let's welcome him to this opening ceremony. I also indicated that we have a number of retired Inspectors General of Police and the first Public Relations Officer who knows them closely, so there is no case of mistaken identity. I have the names, but I just want to be sure that the names are matching the faces. I will now respectfully invite the first Public Relations Officer to briefly recognize the former IGs who are present in this hall for this opening ceremony. And thereafter, we'll continue.
Thank you, Kingsley. Let me align with already established protocols. I don't want to stand on any protocol, so that's not going to collapse. I want to welcome to this event those who have actually paid their dues in fighting for sustainability of our democracy, our national heritage called Nigeria today. Therefore, the virtues, we still appreciate them because they are still alive today, giving help to the 24th Indigenous Inspector General of Police, Federal Republic of Nigeria. I want to welcome to this event our Baba, because to me, it's a Baba to me. IGP Aliu Atari retired, GCN, CFR, NPM, MNI. Please can we appreciate this Baba? He's always been there for us. You're welcome, sir. The next one is wearing two caps. Former Inspector General of Police, and now the incumbent chairman of the Police Service Commission. IGP Musliu Smith, CFR, FWC. You're welcome, sir. The one and only sir, I know. Former Inspector General of Police, Sir Sunday Eyindo retired, CFR, NPM, FWC. Sorry, FW came before FD. Thank you, sir. We have in our midst that man, a very senior officer, now retired. In fact, he introduced my tailor to me when he was the AIG Zone 2. I was PRO in Ogun State. And up till now, that man is still sewing for me. The popular MD, IGP MD Abubakar, retired CFR, NPM, MNI. You're welcome, sir. We have here IGP Sulaiman Abba. He's wearing two caps here, as well the chairman, Nigerian Police Trust Fund. IGP Sulaiman Abba retired, CFR, NPM, MNI. This is one of the brilliant retired officers we have in the police, and not tired. In fact, he's the brain behind this workshop. The former Inspector General of Police, IGP Solomon Ekato Arase, is there with us. FDC, NPM. We have here another sir, former Inspector General of Police, my own father as well, Sir Mike Mbama Okiro, retired, NPM, MNI. I have the one I refer to as OEC, the former Inspector General of Police, IGP Ogbonnaya Onovo, retired, CFR, NPM, MNI, is there with us. And I have another Oga here, retired Inspector General of Police, IGP Ibrahim Potum Idris, NPM, MNI. I have here again, with request permission of the chairman of this event, the members of the force management team who are supporting the Inspector General of Police in making sure we have that robust intelligence-led policing and better security system in Nigeria. We have all of them here. We have the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of DFA, IGP Sanusi Lemo, MNI, is there with us. We have here with us the DIG in charge of Department of Training and Development. We have DIG Dan Malam, FVC. We have the DIG in charge of ICT, DIG Moses Jitobo, MNI. We have the DIG in charge of DLS, that is Logistics and Supply, DIG Ibrahim Zana, MNI. We have here with us the #1 investigator in the police, the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of 4CID, DIG Johnson Babatunde Kokuma, MNI. We have here with us the DIG in charge of research and planning, DIG Ogbonnaya Amadi, MNI. We have the Force Secretary, the man who has that thing to commend and to fire. The Force Secretary of the Nigerian Police Force is here, AIG Afis Inoa, MNI. And we have again with us the AIG in charge of FIB, AIG Abu Sani. We have here with us the AIG in charge of Interpol and the Vice President of Interpol Africa, AIG Garuba, is here with us. You're welcome. And I want to quickly say, for us who have been fighting hard to have good democracy in this country, according to an American politician, an attorney who says democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. And we are today to learn about how to have proper and seamless, fair, and credible elections in this country. And of course, we can't do that as a responsible institution without the help of the military, led by our own boss, the Chief of Defense Staff is here, General Lucky Irabor. PSA, FC, MH. Thank you, we appreciate you. And of course, other service chiefs that are here, we appreciate you. Then to my gentlemen of the press, we appreciate you. You are welcome once again. Kingsley, over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, First Public Relations Officer Adejobi, for doing justice to the recognition of the bevy of retired and serving police officers and other distinguished service personnel who are in the audience. Today is a busy day, and to have the assemblage of personalities in this hall means that we must maximize the time that they have to spend with us. So very quickly, fast forward, may I respectfully invite to give his remarks at this opening event, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor.
The special guest of honor, who is the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongunu, retired. Honorable ministers that are here, especially the Minister for Police Affairs and that of Education, the service chiefs, and of course our host, the IGP, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'd like to congratulate the IGP for this training workshop, which centers around the conduct, the safe, free, and secure conduct of the 2023 general elections. The precursor to the conduct of the election, of course, is security. To every Nigerian and friends of Nigeria, there are two principal desires that we have, namely security and the free, fair, and secure conduct of the 2023 general elections. Because as members of the armed forces, we give support to the civil authority in this regard, and the police being the lead in internal security provisioning. The entire leadership hierarchy of the armed forces is here to give that support. Beyond that, we also, as members of the armed forces, have a covenant with the democratic process. The growth and stability of our democracy is so pivotal to our existence. And so we are here not only to record that covenant, but to assure every Nigerian that the military is there to give support throughout the entire process and beyond, ensuring that as we support in providing secure environment as part of our operational engagements in internal security, that the conduct of the 2023 general elections will also be there to support the police and other security agencies in that regard. And so that is why for this event, this workshop, the wisdom and initiative of the Inspector General of Police to have it conducted is quite laudable. And we are part and parcel of the process because as those to be trained, you have members of the armed forces, because we know that will remain a fallback position if the need arises. So let me, on that note, congratulate you and to also use this opportunity to pledge our loyalty to Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, and the Nigerian Constitution. Thank you and God bless.
I think the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, deserves a much louder round of applause. You know, as a reporter and editor, there are many headlines you could easily pick from the remarks he just gave a moment ago. And of course, one of the most striking is the pledge to support the electoral process and ensure its credibility and success in 2023. And to further pledge on behalf of the armed forces, loyalty to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the President. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate the armed forces. They've been making a great deal of sacrifices, and they have pledged to continue to make those sacrifices to ensure the integrity of our territory and peace and unity of our country. We have some members of the diplomatic corps who are in our midst. Once we clarify the names, we will recognize them, but they're from embassies, United States of America, from Germany, from China, and a number of other countries. Just before this event started, I saw the chief of the election management body, and I said to him, "Prof, you are looking very calm." And he said to me, "Why not? I should be calm ahead of 2023. I'm in the midst of those who will provide security." And the assurance that he has received a moment ago from the Chief of Defense Staff will, of course, put on his lips. This is not an advertisement, but when we were in high school, you know, there's this toothpaste that was very popular then. It was called a Pepsodent Smile. And the special guests of honor, honorable ministers and service chiefs, permit me now to respectfully invite the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, who is basking in the outcome of the conduct of the Osun and Ekiti governorship off-cycle elections, to give us his remarks at this opening ceremony. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
Thank you very much. The National Security Advisor, who is also the co-chairman of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, ICSES, honorable ministers, the Inspector General of Police and head of the lead agency in election security, the Chief of Defense Staff and other service chiefs, the Chairman of the Police Service Commission, a former Inspector General of Police, and all former Inspectors General of Police, heads of various security agencies, national commissioners of INEC, members of the diplomatic corps, leaders of political parties, Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Kefi, civil society organizations, the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Independent National Electoral Commission, I wish to thank the Inspector General of Police for convening this very important workshop on security management training for police and other security personnel ahead of the 2023 general election. I'm also glad that the initiative does not begin and end here in Abuja, but extended to the 6 geopolitical zones. The Commission supports this laudable initiative and will fully participate in the training workshops nationwide. Election preparations, deployment, and implementation constitute the most extensive mobilization that could happen in a country, whether in peacetime or in war. In Nigeria, it involves the recruitment of up to 1 million ad hoc staff and managing the logistics for their deployment to 176,846 polling units spread across 8,809 electoral wards, 774 local government areas, and 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. It also involves a projected voter population of about 95 million for the 2023 general election, which is over 20 million more than the combined voter population of the other 14 countries in West Africa put together. Election in Nigeria is huge. We have 20 million more registered voters than the other 14 countries in West Africa put together. So each time Nigerians go to the polls in a general election, it's like conducting a general election for the whole of West Africa. Ekiti State, which has the smallest voter population in Nigeria, has more registered voters than the Republic of Gambia. Osun State, with about 2 million registered voters, has more voters than the Republic of Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Cape Verde put together. So election in Nigeria is simply huge. Voters will also elect 1,491 candidates for 1,491 constituencies, made up of 1 presidential constituency, 109 senatorial districts, 360 federal constituencies, and 993 state assembly constituencies. Ensuring the safety and security of voters, election personnel and materials, candidates, party agents, observers, the media, and transporters are enormous. This responsibility has become more challenging in the context of the current security situation in the country. I'm glad that the Nigerian police, as the lead agency in election security, has once again demonstrated its leadership role by convening this workshop. With about 7 months to the next general election, there is time for proactive measures to ensure that the entire country is secure for election to hold nationwide. We actually have 6 months, 1 week, and 6 days, or exactly 204 days, before polling units open on Saturday, 25th February 2023. In addition to fiscal security, I am glad to note that this workshop will also focus on deepening the capacity of the security personnel to imbibe and comply with global standard of election security management. Already, the Commission, under the auspices of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, has produced and periodically revised the Code of Conduct and Rules of Engagement for security personnel on electoral duty. In the next few weeks, the Code of Conduct, as well as our training manuals, will be revised and aligned with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. This will help to consolidate on the professionalism displayed by the security agencies in recent off-cycle elections. We'll also intensify our cascade training for security personnel to complement the efforts of the Nigerian police and other security agencies ahead of the 2023 general election. I wish to reassure the Inspector General of Police, heads of other security agencies, and all members of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security that the Commission will continue to work in synergy with you to ensure a safe and secure environment for the 2023 general election. It is a critical election, and we must all continue to work together to protect the will of the Nigerian people. I thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you very much, INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, for those reassuring words and for the numbers that you have read out this morning. We have 6 months, 1 week, and 6 days to the 2023 general elections. The special guests of honor, honorable ministers, service chiefs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we also have in our midst a representative of the European Union delegation to Nigeria. The next item on the program is a keynote address. And the keynote address will be delivered by a much sought after academic, a much sought after resource persons, because his areas of competence, research, and teaching include policing, organized crime, security sector reform and governance, human rights and democracy, conflict studies, and criminal justice policy and reform. He earned his first and second degrees in sociology at the University of Ibadan, and then proceeded to the University of Pennsylvania, one of the Ivy League schools in the US, where he earned a second master's and then capped it with a doctorate degree. He is at present a professor of criminology and sociology of law at the University of Jos in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Professor Etanibi Alemika to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you. I'm not going to attempt to repeat the protocol. I think 3 attempts has been made to establish the protocol. I will simply adopt the protocol. I think this is a great opportunity. I'm not aware, I've been in a meeting or in any workshop like this where this number of retired Inspector General of Police are present. I think going back to 1999 with Baba Smith, right through today, I think by my collection, maybe only 2 are absent. And of course, going back before then, the IG, Aliyu Attar, I'm sure if you ever work with the police, you will know that also that was in the early 1990s where attempt was made indeed to create a new police force for Nigeria. So I just want to acknowledge your presence and to thank the current Inspector General of Police and the retired Inspector General of Police, Solo Arase. I have this joke with the current IG that he's such a powerful person, both by a combination of names and roles. You find a man whose name is Baba, that is a cultural authority. Then is an alkali, a judge, and it's an IGP, so never fall into his hand. There is no escape. So I'm always very careful when I'm before him, and as we say, with my long-term relation with the police, I will attempt not to speak beyond my rank. We are gathered here in order to discuss how to secure election. And not just an election in a democratic system, or that ushered and support democracy. The immediate speaker, who is my friend, brother, and colleague, we both taught at University of Georgia before he ran away to some other lawns, some of them greener, some of them are drier, has the responsibility to conduct such election. My presentation will start for us to appreciate, why do we really need an election? What is the utility of an election? If we talk about election, if it's just some event, there wouldn't be resonate in terms of effort and resources committed to it. We need to recognize that election is an intrinsic and defining characteristic of democracy. You cannot have a democracy without an election. So the quality of your election is actually determined by the quality of your election. The more democratic your election, the more also the democratic culture is extreme in your country. So there is a very strong relationship between democracy and election. So it is a defining characteristic of democracy. It is also important, of course, to underscore quickly that election in itself does not constitute a democracy. You can have election without democracy, and I think in Nigeria we've witnessed that. I don't know what you want to call our experience from 1999 to today. I don't want to dampen the spirit of Professor Mahmoud, but I think we can congratulate ourselves that we have had uninterrupted civilian rule since 1999. But whether you have a democratic system of government from 1999, I think it deserves a huge debate and interrogation, which means our election is still problematic. That is the reason that our democracy also remains problematic. So what is a democracy? What is the purpose of a democracy? The first thing that a democracy system seeks and offers citizens, one, is their equality. It demonstrates that all citizens are equal. That's the first thing it demonstrates, and nothing demonstrated better than election. On election day, every one of us is entitled to a vote, except you want to commit an electoral offense. So even a very big man, the NSA, General Moguno, is entitled to only one vote on that day. As an ordinary teacher, I'm entitled to one vote. So we queue on a line on equality basis for that day. That symbolizes the fundamental doctrine of democracy, of equality of the citizen. The next thing that it symbolizes is also the idea that the citizens are the source of the power of those who govern, because they are elected as representatives to participate in government. So it does signify that characteristics also, that those who govern are representatives and stewards of people, of the ordinary citizens who constitute the country. That's the second aspect of democracy. The third element also that is important is that election are for citizens to reward or to punish their representative in government that fail to do well. This is where we have a problem. In Nigeria thus far, there is no cost for those in governance who did well and for punishing those who did badly. So these are some of the characteristics of elections, of a democracy. It's not exhausted, but I think when we're talking about election, these are very important to underscore. First, that establishes equality in choosing representatives, that it affords us to make a choice among political parties and candidates who present themselves for election so that our interests can be protected. That also is establishes relationship between us and our representative, which means the representative, rather than being our bosses, are really our stewards who ought to periodically give account through election for their behavior. I think this has underscored the importance of election and why it is central to democracy. In our present context in Nigeria, what are the instruments that indeed grant us some idea about the kinds of election we ought to be having. A number of national or domestic laws, including our Constitution, the Electoral Act 2022, as well as regional instruments like the ECOWAS Protocol on Good Governance and Democracy 2001, African Charter on Human and People's Rights 1981, and African Charter on Democracy, Election and Governance provide us with a continental foundation for election, the minimum standard that must be attained before we can say really we have fulfilled our obligations under this continental and regional instrument. Of course, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights 1948, as well as International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966, underscore the role of citizens in election and why indeed elections are important. Of course, there are guidelines which I do not have the status of laws, if you like. There are guidelines, policies, and instruments that offer practical orientation and basis of action for election in the country. Amongst these, of course, the standard operating procedure of the security agencies, the code of conduct of the ICELs, which the chairman of INEC has said and is currently under review. Indeed, I think this training and subsequent training should take, I wish the other one, I take that ICEL's guide, code of conduct and rule of engagement as one of the principal instruments for training, because that is the one that provides us with almost extraction from the appropriate standards that are required for governing election on election day. So we do have a number of guidelines that help us to conduct election in the country that we are supposed to meet. Now we're talking about the security agencies. What role do they play in an election? Of course, election is not an event, so it's not an event management. We talk about an event like when there's a football at Moshood Abiola Stadium, or there is something organized for a particular day. Event, on the contrary, election is a process. And of course, it's a cycle which starts from your legal framework, the establishment of relevant institution, voters registration, providing the list, and of course, right through to the point of polling on election day, and of course, post-election dispute resolution. And I think at each point, and that was one of the things that make election a little bit problematic, at most of the critical stages, violence is possible, conflict is possible. For example, if we recall, even without, luckily not a violence conflict, we know what, is this section 84 of the Electoral Act generated just before the primaries, the conflict between the various stakeholders in the country. So when you want to have voters registration, there are also a lot of interest and a lot of challenges that you encounter. So there is, along the stages in the entire process, the fact that conflict is evident and is intrinsic, and you require the security agencies, you require some kind of election management bodies, complete resolution to manage these stages. So that is where the role of security agencies comes in. In mature democracies, if there's something like that, again, democracy is not a condition that is achieved. On the contrary, it's a value, it's a systemic, it's a value for a system. And then, of course, we keep improving on those ones. In mature democracies, the role of security agencies are not as visible as they are in maturing democracies. And I use that word deliberately. They are not as visible, they are not as overt as in maturing society. Many of you should reflect, even in mature democracy like in the United States, I'm not talking of January 6th attempted coup of Trump, if you recall also that even in that system, just before election that brought in Trump, emails started appearing of what Hillary Clinton did wrongly. Not a few scholars believe that this was part of some activities of security, if you like, intelligence agencies, in order to influence the election. So whether for good or ill, all over the world, intelligence, particularly agencies, and then security agencies, influence election in many ways, but for the long-term interest of their country. For the long-term interest of their country. So this involvement in Nigeria is not anything exceptional, and it's nothing to be ashamed about that we continue to have the intervention of the security agencies. Also, the extent of visible or overt presence of security agencies in election is dictated by the security environment. The more the environment has security challenges, the more likely that security agencies will be visible in election. And that's why we have the visibilities usually in a transition from authoritarian regime to civilian regimes, as well as in post-conflict countries where earlier elections are taking place, maybe the first, second elections or third one are taking place. You need security in order to moderate the contest among different parties. So election, if you like, is an important means of expression of democracy, but it is also a mechanism that can trigger violence, conflict, and indeed a lot of human rights abuses. And that is the reason why in our context we have the involvement of the security agencies. And I have said that election is important because it establishes our citizenship, the equality amongst us, and then of course our choice of representative and policies. So to that extent, the mandate of the security agencies is also to advance democracy, protect the right of citizens to be able to choose freely, fairly, and peacefully their representative in government, and also to be able to ensure that the idea that sovereignty belongs to the people, which our constitution indeed enshrine in our constitution, is also realized. So we do have, for example, some examples of declaration of the role of security. Again, I go back to the Code of Conduct of ISES, which simply identified 3 broad roles for the security agencies in election. And according to the ISES code, it's to ensure the safety and security of all persons and properties that will be involved before, during, and after the voting exercise without bias. The second one is strict enforcement of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Criminal and Penal Code, as well as the electoral law. And of course, to manage traffic, control management, crowd management at venues of political parties, campaigns, and related activities, and especially on the polling days. So it identified the same code, identified 13 critical security agencies involved in election day security. The same code also provides us with what we call a code of conduct expected of security agencies involved in election duties. Among these, of course, in order to underscore this importance, every security agencies involved in election are required, all of them are required to swear an oath of impartiality in order to ensure that a free and fair election conducted. Of course, it has a number of behavioral expectations, for example, punctuality, being approachable and friendly with the members of the public or electorate, exhibiting professionalism, and of course, being aware of the electoral laws and of course the need to implement it. So these are the foundation for the involvement of security agencies. We must also recognize that the security agencies, especially the police, have responsibility for enforcing the law. and there are electoral offenses. So we have in sections 22, 23, 57, 92, 93, 114 to 129, several offenses that are listed in the Electoral Act 2022. And one of them incidentally with buying and selling of votes, which we have, think now is a very serious matter. I think the problem with this, after Osun, especially Ekiti, we hear complaint of buying of vote and selling of vote. And I've criticized those who focus on this. And I said, that is not the beginning of vote buying. The vote buying started with ward election of delegates. From there to local government delegates. From there to state delegates. All those ones were conducted in Naira. Then, of course, to the national delegates, which were conducted in dollars. What we have seen are people without privilege and power who were simply taking the crumbs of political corruption or proceeds of political corruption on the street that we tend to focus on. If we are going to deal with financial corruption in the political process, we need to pay attention to all the phases of the election and not just on the day of election itself. Buying and selling of votes also has an underlying perspective which tells us about the quality of our democracy. I've interrogated a number of people who sold their vote, which you thought they are very cheap, 3,000. They said, once this person wants the election, I won't be able to see him or her again. I won't even be able to get a kobo from him or her. So 3,000 today is at least something I have collected. And of course, better than nothing. So that also tells us about quality of our representation, quality of our election as a means of accountability, and of course the whole idea of the representative being stewards of the citizens. So we have a number of electoral offenses that are in the various sections that I've mentioned, which relate, some of them include buying and selling of votes, and then withholding or misrepresenting, impersonation, and a whole lot of those that also deal with use of violence, organizing violent groups, and the rest of it. So again, I think this will be an important component of the training of security officers for election. I think this particular workshop had incorporated many of these, virtually all of these, in the program that we have today and tomorrow, and in the various training in the geopolitical zones. But I think it needs to be underscored that this series of training must build capacity of the people to know what to do at every point in the electoral process, and as it relates to securing those electoral choices. Then I think it's important to read the election day offenses provided in section 126 of the Act. It includes canvass of votes within, the offenses are when they take place within 300 meters of a polling unit, that is a voting center. Canvassing for votes, soliciting for the votes of any voter, persuading any voter not to vote for any particular candidate, persuading any voter not to vote at the election, shouting slogan concerning the election, being in possession of any offensive weapon, exhibit, wear, or tender any notice, symbol, paragraph, or party card referring to the election, and many other offenses. Again, these are not new. I think this area particularly have been in our law since 2010, including the even earlier ones. So these are the challenges before us, and what challenges have we had before now in conducting election? As I promise you, I'm not going to stay long so that I'm not charged for contempt of speaking beyond my rank. So what are the challenges that we've encountered in the past elections? I think especially in the context of 2023, both in the past, in the present, and likely in the 2023 elections. I think the first one is the multidimensional insecurity in society. We have all kinds of manifestation of insecurity, which of course can lead to voter apathy and which also may lead to disruption of election in many places. And when I mean, as the chairman of INEC said, the logistic of election is frightening. For example, security on the highway. INEC has to transport materials and personnel. If an area is insecure, obviously it will be a challenge to hold an election. Of course, there will be selective intervention of the Nigerian Air Force in some cases where they can help, but this is limited by both facilities and other consideration of crafts and the rest of it. So that is one area that we need to pay attention to. And luckily, the NSA is here. In addition to prayer, what are we going to do to ensure that in the last 5 months, the fear and the threat and the actual incidence of insecurity is drastically reduced to give citizens the confidence to be able to participate in the election, and also to safeguard the materials and personnel and other stakeholders in election. Other challenge that we've had in the past also is inadequate infrastructure. The quality of your election is also dependent on your infrastructure. For example, the whole debate about electronic voting, electronic transmission of results is a function of your infrastructure to a very large extent. If 60% of your society is not adequately covered by reliable internet, you'll be taking a lot of risk in trying to use those platforms. So where you find that there's no electricity, there is a weight impact on conduct of election. So infrastructure, our lack of infrastructure has also been a challenge. So in planning for the election, we must not take infrastructure for granted. We must also deliberately identify the way that the current level of infrastructure in the country can impact on election. Another challenge we need to address, luckily we are starting, is inadequate training tailored towards election security management. And I think, especially from the police to the other complementary agencies, the funds for training that will make it meaningful are usually not released on time. And by the time it's released, I think rather than training, what we are having is briefing. So we're having election briefing, that election security training. And I think this is where starting this early will actually give an opportunity for training rather than last minute briefing. And of course, we also have inadequate familiarity with the laws, which I had mentioned before. Then related to the system is what winner takes all. Under the system that we have, which is called the first past the poll, the winner takes all. And therefore there is inclusion and exclusion. And that leads to desperation in a country or a system like our own, where politics is everything. And that is a challenge. Except reorientation, I cannot see an immediate way to address that, because even our electoral law, that is what we have. The way other countries have tried to modify this is to adopt system like modified proportional representation, in which, of course, people don't lose entirely. They gain relative to their representation. They gain relative to their representation. So in subsequent consideration of a system, I think we need to give it a serious thought. Then, of course, we do have adverse economic situation with high risk of poverty and youth unemployment, which provide fertile grounds for the recruit of electoral offenders. With the economic condition in the country, conducting free and fair election will be a major challenge. Will indeed be a major challenge. We can't solve that problem between now and February next year. But in planning, we must take them into consideration and how it will impact our preparation for election. Then, of course, we also have, and I think this is the big elephant in the room, coordination of security officials on election day. Luckily, the ICELS, which is a high-level committee chaired by both the chairman of INEC and the NSA, has done a lot of good work in planning. But in the country, our challenge is implementation. How do you implement coordination on the day of election in the field across the country? I think this requires a lot of discussion by ISES and also by the Nigeria Police in the coordination and of course with the other agencies. I think we should move to an era in which each state will actually have security control room in which, of course, all the agencies are present and can speak to their personnel as part of the coordination, rather than people waiting to take a directive from their bosses and heads in disparate areas. I have a long list of recommendations, but I'm not going to read those recommendations. I think if you are interested, sometime a copy of the paper. Let me conclude, and I will read my conclusion. The security agencies in Nigeria play a significant role in the electoral process, especially in the few days before, during, and after election. In carrying out their duties during elections, the law requires them to be impartial in order to ensure free and fair election, implying that electorates can cast their votes without fear of violence or any form of harm because of their political choices expressed through their vote. To underscore the need for impartiality by electoral officers and security personnel deployed to election duties, Section 26 of the Electoral Act 2022 requires them to swear to an oath to refrain from accepting bribe or gratification, but instead perform their functions and discharge their duties impartially and in the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria without fear or favor. My observation of the elections since 1999 and reports of the observation indicate improvement in the professionalism, ethical conduct, and impartiality of police officers and other security agencies deployed in election duties. Rarely do we hear of police officers accompanying top politicians disrupting elections or causing stampede by shooting into the air to cause stampede so that ballot boxes can be snatched and taken to safe places to be stored with mass thumb-printed papers. These were rampant in 2003 and 2007. If you remember, these were recurring decima. And I remember in 2003, when the Police Service Commission pioneered the, instituting the Code of Conduct for police officers on election duty, and then applying it in 2003, and then in 2007, one of the lessons learned, I participated in that process, one of the lessons learned was that it isn't the police officers that are on the police station that are usually problem. There are those who follow these big men that come to cause the trouble. And the lessons that have been learned and implemented since by the police through directives, cooperation with Police Service Commission, is to minimize the presence of police officers bearing arms, following their principals to the voting center. And that has reduced considerably the violence at the polling unit. So we're actually seeing improvement in the conduct, in the professionalism of the behavior. I read Osun, and then you find by 8 o'clock, a lot of both electoral and police officials were already on duty on matters of punctuality. So in those areas, we have improved. We have improved both in the conduct of electoral officials, in the conduct, in the conduct of the elections. We have improved in those areas. So I think also the continuing improvisation with technology may have contributed to the decline in misconduct of security officers in election duty. Yet improvement in the conduct of security cannot be denied. Unfortunately, it is difficult to identify significant improvement in the bad behavior of political parties and politicians. I'm not sure we've recorded significant improvement since 1999 in the bad behaviors of political parties and politicians. So while security and the electoral process is improving, the key stakeholder there are actually perfecting misconduct. And I think this is the challenge for us. One of our elder late social scientists was Claude Ake. Many of us will remember. He said the problem with Nigeria is that those who have responsibility to solve a problem are the ones who cause the problem. And I think that's the challenge. The political parties have responsibility to solve many of these problems. Unfortunately, they are the ones that are responsible for this problem. But at the end, they come to blame the police as the problem. When you are caught, planning rigging, police was not part of your rigging. When you were bribing officials, they were not. Then only for you to come on the day after election, and then of course to blame others. So unfortunately, they carried on with manipulation and scheming that are antithetical to democracy, while failing to perform the core duties of political parties of aggregating interests of citizens and mobilizing electorate to vote for them on the basis of the quality of the political policies that they offer. The recent experience during primaries demonstrated that the parties and candidates introduced unparalleled level of corruption into party elections from the world to national levels. They normalized corruption as an indispensable instrument of successful electoral contests in the country. The worsening conditions of corruption in the political process will aggravate desperation and very likely violence during 2023. Because there will be resistance to this corruption for those who cannot, compete at that level. They are probably going to resort to whatever instrument they have that they can use to bring competitive advantages. Law enforcement agencies therefore need to plan on how to deal with not just vote selling and buying problem, but violence by those with less funds to compete in the game of corruption. Finally, as I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, to realize our goals of free, fair, and peaceful election, there is need to constantly reform the political governance and electoral framework. And we also need to adopt measures to promote economic development with equity in order to eliminate the dependence on elective positions for livelihood or as a license to capture government and lose its treasury. The major problem Nigeria has today is that most people do not live on production. They live on welfare and looting from the public resources. And until we address the economic development and the equity associated with it, we may continue to have challenges of political succession as well as political process, including electoral and election itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Etanibi Alemika, giving the keynote address at the opening ceremony of the series of workshops on election security management. Professor Alemika could go on for another hour, another 2 hours, because it is his field, and you can see the passion that he brings to the subject matter. And just by the way, he's also a member of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, or anti-corruption. And happily, in this audience, we have a representative of the chairman of the EFCC, and I'm sure he listened attentively when Professor Alemika was talking about see-and-buy. The see-and-buy occurs much earlier, and not probably what we see during conventions or perhaps at the polling units. I said earlier we were getting pressed for time, and we need to maximize the presence of the galaxy of distinguished personalities here with us today. We will take just 2 goodwill messages, and this has been approved by the organizers. One of the goodwill messages will be coming from a representative of a stakeholder group that is critical to the conduct of elections, and it is from amongst them. INEC has sourced ad hoc staff in recent election cycles, and they remain relevant to this process. Let me humbly invite the rep of the Director General of the National Youth Service Corps to deliver a goodwill message. If you could do this in 60 seconds, max 90 seconds, that's a minute and a half, that will be fine.
Aligning
aligning myself with the established protocol, special guest of honor, sir, the Director General would have been here himself, but for the 2022 Batch B Stream 2 orientation course presently going on all over the Federation. He said I should deliver this goodwill message. It is with immense delight that I give this goodwill message to this august gathering on the occasion of the training on national election security management organized by the Nigerian police for its personnel and other stakeholders in the electoral process ahead of the 2023 general elections. Let me begin by commending the foresight of the Police High Command in initiating this program, which will go a long way in ensuring free, fair, and credible elections, as well as guaranteeing law and order before, during, and after elections. For the NYSC, participation in this training, it is not only appropriate, but also strategic, given the fact that our core members form a large percentage of INEC's ad hoc personnel during elections since 2008. I therefore wish to express our profound gratitude to the Inspector General of Police and Solar Security Consult for rising to the occasion and extending hands of fellowship to the scheme. It is my ardent hope that the nation will reap far-reaching benefits from this laudable initiative. I consider it appropriate to use this occasion to reaffirm the commitment of NYSC to contributing to the nation's effort at entrenching a credible electoral process. To this end, we have continued to sensitize our youth on national service, on the need to remain apolitical, while also demonstrating high level of responsibility and neutrality in the course of performing election duties. It is heartwarming to note that the contributions of successive batches of core members to the credibility of elections have always attracted encomiums from various stakeholders, including civil society organizations and international bodies. Once again, I commend the organizers of this program, the INEC, and also look forward to robust outcomes, especially in guaranteeing maximum security of lives and property, and of both election personnel and the voting populace as the 2023 general elections draw near. Thank you and God bless.
All right, thank you very much. The Director General of the NYSC here represented. Now, as I said, we're taking just 2 goodwill messages. We've been informed that there are other goodwill messages, and please be advised to kindly submit the goodwill message to the Secretariat, and the message therein will be incorporated into the corpus of ideas that will emanate from this series of workshops. As we are here, this event is being streamed live on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter. So we are live all around the world, where those who have a keen interest in Nigeria's elections are tuning in at this material time. The second and last goodwill message we'll be taking on this occasion will be coming from the Ambassador of the United States of America to Nigeria, Her Excellency Mary Beth Leonard.
Good afternoon. I will be brief and therefore also stand on the protocol already established. I commend the Inspector General of Police for organizing this important and timely training ahead of the elections in 2023. The United States considers Nigeria to be an important democratic leader on the African continent. In Sudan, Mali, and elsewhere, African militaries have overthrown or sought to overthrow civilian governments 4 times, in fact, over the past 12 months, which is the highest number in 4 decades. So naturally, the world will be watching Nigerian elections in 2023 with appreciation. The upcoming elections represent an opportunity for all Nigerian stakeholders, security actors, the INEC, and political parties to work together to ensure the electoral process is peaceful, transparent, and credible. Security actors play a vital role in safeguarding these elections. Congratulations on facilitating largely peaceful off-cycle elections in SET, Ekiti, and Osun. Well done. Now, I urge you to use this training as an opportunity to enhance coordination across security agencies and reinforce best practices aimed at reducing electoral violence. As a steadfast partner, the United States has a long history of working with Nigerian authorities to address security challenges. We look forward to continuing that cooperation as Nigeria prepares for the 2023 elections. Thank you and best wishes for your deliberations.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mary Beth Leonard, the U.S. Ambassador to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Special guests of honor, service chiefs here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have a short message to be delivered on behalf of the retired Inspectors General of Police who are here present. And the message will be delivered by one of them, highly respected former Inspector General of Police. He was IG between 1990 and 1993, the recipient of the National Honor of GCON, which is the second highest in our country, meaning the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to invite former Inspector General of Police, Aliyu Atta, to deliver a message on behalf of his retired colleagues. A senior citizen now, so you give him the privilege and the time to make his way.
Good afternoon, everybody. Anyway, I don't have to repeat my name. It's already been mentioned by the gentleman who just spoken. And my standing here is just for a few minutes. And so I would like to recognize the protocol arrangement. So I stand by the protocol. The National Security Advisor, the Minister, and the Inspector General of Police, I only mentioned the three. All the rest are also recognized. I have been involved for many, many years, just around the independence, the arrangement for elections and so on. There is even one that I was directly involved with, that is when for handing over from the military to the civilian, that is the time of General Babangida. I was there. And then this vote buying is very important because I will say it, although not said by General Babangida himself, I will tell you that this vote buying was part of the reason that the election of Abiola was stopped, because we've had very reasonable reasons for it. The IG, I really sincerely thank you very much, and also the National Security Advisor to Mr. President. I thank both of you very much for this arrangement, because it's very important for us to listen to this type of lecture and then advise the people involved on coming election on what to do and what not to do. So mine is just to show appreciation of what has been arranged. Inspector General of Police, well done. Thank you very much for this arrangement. We hope that it will be taken up, and then that your boys will follow it up as arranged. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's appreciate him. He's a senior citizen now. That's the former Inspector General of Police. He was IG between 1990 and 1993. And you heard the reference he made to the elections of that year, June 12, 1993. So thank you very much for the remarks on behalf of your retired colleagues. And just before we get to the high point, and that will be the speech by the National Security Advisor, who is our special guest of honor. He sat through this patiently, but we are not going to take that patience for granted because we know that his schedule is hectic and busy. I wonder how many hours of sleep he's able to get in a day these days. But we'll have remarks by the Honorable Minister of Police Affairs, who is the host minister, Alhaji Mohammed Megiri Dingiade. Honorable Minister of Police Affairs, please, our pleasure to invite you to give your remarks on this occasion. Let's welcome him to the podium, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished special guests who are here, permit me to stand on the protocol already established at this very great occasion. I think I shouldn't have been invited to come and say anything here, but because of the protocol, I accepted to come and say one or two words at this very important occasion. I have particularly been impressed by a few things that I have observed here today. One of them is the principle of synergy that the police has tried to encourage today. We have all along been talking about synergy between security agencies in the country so that the issues that are bedeviling this country will be addressed squarely and jointly. I have seen today all the security agencies are here to support us at this very important workshop. I think this call for synergy is working today, and I look forward to seeing a situation where this synergy is being encouraged. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I want to say that the police is at all times ready and willing to encourage this synergy. The other issue is the fact that the IGP is able to gather the galaxy of personalities that are here, particularly the past Inspector General of Police. I think it's commendable, and it has gone to show that the IGP is working within an inclusive environment and is trying to carry everybody along. It is my hope that our senior citizens will join us in supporting the IGP to ensure that we succeed in the police reforms that we have set for this country. We are all aware that Mr. President is committed to the success of this police reform, and government is doing whatever is possible to ensure that the police have a conducive environment within which to work to ensure that security, peace, and tranquility is maintained in this country. Let me say that this workshop has come at no better time than now, when our nation is working towards ensuring a free, credible, and fair election in February 2023. We are here today to assure the National Chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission that the police is ready for him, and the police is ready for this country, and we are here to assure you that we are all out to ensure that there is a credible, a fair and transparent election within a conducive environment, so that the world will witness a free and fair election that is being conducted by our dear country. I want to assure all Nigerians that the police have just started, and you can see that this workshop is going to be extended to cover all the geopolitical zones of this country, so that the policemen that are going to participate in these elections will have the opportunity to participate actively in the workshops that are going to be conducted. I want to appeal to the police officers that are going to benefit from this workshop to ensure that we conduct ourselves creditably well, we conduct ourselves very well to ensure that we support all other security agencies, we support the Electoral Commission in ensuring that we have, at the end of the day, the desired results of having a free, fair, and credible election. Let me assure Mr. President that the police in this country is ever ready to support the administration in ensuring that we secure the country and we secure whatever project that we are supposed to secure for the good of our dear nation and for the good of our people. I thank everybody for coming here to support us at this workshop, and we want to assure Nigerians that the police is always there for them, and we want them to consider the police as their friends, and they are always there out for them to support the peace and security of our country. I commend the IGP for coming up with this workshop, and I commend the Independent Electoral Commission for supporting us towards this direction. Let me also recognize the presence of the members of the diplomatic corps who are here today with us. We want to assure you that we mean business, and we want to show the world that Nigeria is a democratic country, and we want to ensure that the transition that is about to take place becomes a reality and a successful exercise for that matter. I thank you very much for listening, and I wish everybody a God's guidance and safe journey to our respective destinations. Thank you, and wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Police Affairs, who is the host minister for this series of workshops, Alhaji Mohammed Megeri Dingyadi, for your remarks. Next for us now will be the special address to be delivered by the special guest of honor on this occasion, and he is the National Security Advisor. Major General Babagana Monguno retired voluntarily from the Nigerian Army in 2013. And in the course of his career, amongst various positions that he had, he was Deputy Commandant of the National Defense College. He was also Commander of the Brigade of Guards, and also he was Chief of Defense Intelligence. 2 years after he retired, he was tapped into his new office and has been the NSA since 2015. Service chiefs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please let's warmly welcome to the podium to deliver his speech, this opening ceremony of the series of election management workshop, the National Security Advisor, Major General Papagana Monguno.
The Honorable Minister of Police Affairs, who is also the host minister for this occasion, other ministers and members of the Federal Executive Council, the Chief of Defense Staff, service chiefs, and our host, the Inspector General of Police, retired Inspectors General of Police. And let me just pause at this moment to join Professor Alimika and the Minister of Police Affairs in observing the presence of almost all, maybe with the exception of one or two, of our past Inspectors General of Police. I think this is a very, very excellent development. I think I need to state that this is the sort of inspiring development that we want to see amongst our security agencies. When we talk about collaboration, this type of camaraderie is what we want to see. Inspector General of Police, I want to congratulate you. I tip my hat for you for this very, very great development. And I hope our colleagues in other institutions will learn from this. For me, I am highly inspired, and my hopes are illuminated that we will see a transformed Nigeria Police Force with this sort of psychological tilt towards working together. So, former Inspectors General of Police, I respect you. I thank you for supporting the present Inspector General of Police. Heads of security agencies, my colleague, the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, representative of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, His Royal Highness the Emir of Kefi, and other royal fathers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and I want to thank Ambassador Mary Beth Leonard for a very good goodwill message, which is very encouraging for all of us. Members of the press, I am indeed highly delighted and honored to make these remarks at this noble capacity building program germane to our national security. This election security management training organized by the Inspector General of Police at the most critical time when our country is exploring initiatives to reposition the Nigeria Police Force and other security agencies in delivering a peaceful, secure, and credible 2023 general elections is unprecedented and appropriate. It will also enhance their capacity to stabilize the current internal security challenges towards creating a conducive environment for the citizens to exercise their franchise. A successfully policed and peaceful electoral cycle is a fundamental variable in the quest by any nation to advance its democracy and deepen its democratic gains. The mandate for this process in Nigeria rests principally on the shoulders of the police, being the lead security agency in the electoral process, with the intelligence community, other security agencies, and the military playing critical complementary roles. It is therefore expedient that the professional knowledge of the police, military, and other security agencies be constantly refreshed, widened, and attuned to global best practices in the national quest to consolidate our democracy and meet the yearnings of the citizens for a safe, secure, and credible outcome at every electoral cycle. In furtherance to this, President Muhammadu Buhari has encouraged and supported the development of policy and legal frameworks directed at strengthening our democratic institutions and culture, while also advancing a security sector reform agenda that is aimed at enhancing the capacity of the Nigeria Police and other security agencies in the delivery of their election security mandates. Now, the presidential assent to the Electoral Amendment Bill on 25th of February this year represents a classical statement on the firm commitment of Mr. President to the deepening of our democracy, as the new law contains innovative provisions that will enhance the credibility of the electoral process in our country. The President also clearly maintains that upholding the autonomy of the Independent National Electoral Commission is a veritable pathway to a sustainable democracy. In this regard, the financial autonomy granted to INEC in the Electoral Act of 2022 as amended is instructive. Indeed, the successes recorded in the recent governorship elections in Anambra, Ekiti, and Osun states clearly demonstrate Mr. President's commitment to guaranteeing a level playing field for our democracy to thrive. I wish at this juncture to assure you all of the determination of the President to bequeath a legacy of strong democratic institutions and values to our beloved nation. This remains resolute, and the commitment in guaranteeing a free, fair, credible, and secure general elections in 2023 remains unwavering. I must reiterate that the President is firmly committed to delivering an election that is completely transparent and which will command the general acceptance of the Nigerian population. This election, as far as the President is concerned, will be devoid of, to use a Nigerian parlance, any wuru-wuru. Now, in furtherance to this, the President has charged the military, the police, the DSS, and all other security agencies to synergize effectively, review the operational strategies, and optimally deploy all their operational assets towards addressing current and evolving internal security threats ahead of the forthcoming general elections. I am confident that the presidential directives will be achieved and the 2023 general elections will be conducted peacefully in a stable security environment. In order to achieve this strategic objective, a high level of professionalism, patriotism, and synergy among all security agencies concerned in the electoral process is fundamental. I am therefore optimistic that this workshop will enhance the capacity of security agencies with a view to providing a lasting solution to our current and future election security issues. For this great initiative, I most sincerely commend IGP Usman Alkali Baba, the Inspector General of Police, and assure him of my goodwill and continuous support, both for the success of this initiative and towards the attainment of his lofty leadership visions and goals. As we prepare for the 2023 general elections, I urge all the participants to take full advantage of the opportunity provided by this important training to enhance their professional knowledge, build a professional network, and engage in professional peer review interactions that could be explored to sharpen their operational proficiency during the 2023 general elections and other joint internal security tasks. Now, on this note, it is my pleasure and honor to declare this workshop open. I wish you all a successful engagement and look forward to a workshop outcome that will positively change election security governance in Nigeria and guarantee the success of the 2023 general elections. I thank you all.
A much louder round of applause for our special guest of honor, National Security Advisor to the President, Major General Babagana Monguno. So, he's given his address and declared the workshop series open. Once again, thank you very much, the special guest of honor. And to commemorate this national opening ceremony, there will be the presentation of a souvenir to our special guest of honor. But before we do that, let me quickly fill in one essential detail. While I was recognizing the presence of the service chiefs in our midst, I mentioned the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and the Chief of Air Staff, I indicated their respective ranks. But while I was introducing the Chief of Naval Staff, I omitted his rank. And that was on advice. In journalism, you are told, when in doubt, leave out. I wasn't quite sure whether it was rear or vice or full admiral. But the staff have obliged me with his correct rank, and I especially recognize he's been here since the event kicked off, Vice Admiral Alwal Zubairu Gambo, the Chief of the Naval Staff. The next item is the presentation of a souvenir to the special guest of honor. And the presentation will be done by the chief host of this series of workshops, and that is the incumbent Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, PSC Daga. Inspector General of Police, I'm told that you will make the presentation of the souvenir to the special guest of honor on this occasion. May I respectfully invite you to please step up to the platform. May I also respectfully invite the National Security Advisor and special guest of honor on this occasion to receive the souvenir in commemoration of the opening ceremony. Thank you very much, IG Usman Alkali Baba. I liked the interpretation of your names by Professor Etanibi Alemika, IG Alkali and Baba, so all rolled into one. That's a powerful one, IG. I will take note of it henceforth. So we're coming gradually to the close of the opening ceremony, but of course, there has to be a formal appreciation of the presence of the many dignitaries who have sat through this opening ceremony. And as has been acknowledged, this is perhaps the first time you are having a gathering of former Inspectors General of Police and the top hierarchy of the Nigerian military, the chairman of INEC, the Sultan of Sokoto, here represented by His Royal Highness, the Emir of Kefi, and a number of representatives of paramilitary organizations, members of the diplomatic corps, and the top brass of the police, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. To give the vote of thanks, it's my pleasure and privilege to invite another former Inspector General of Police, who indeed is the brain behind the organization of this workshop, and has earned a reputation over the years for his capacity to deliver on premium workshops and capacity enhancement for men and officers. He was Inspector General of Police from 2015 to 2016. He earned several degrees in political science and law and topped it with a doctorate in law. My pleasure and privilege now to invite Dr. Solomon Ehigiato Arase, retired Inspector General of Police, to deliver a vote of thanks.
Your Excellencies, let me specially thank the NSA for gracing this occasion. You actually pioneered a similar workshop in 2019 when you approached us to help you, deliver some training workshops. And it's nice that you are the special guest of honor on this occasion, which means that you are trying to deepen, what you actually started. We can't thank you enough. Thank you very much, sir. The digital INEC chairman, when I met you to invite you for this workshop, you looked at the program and you advised, you said, Solomon, can I put together my directors so that there can be a cross-fertilization of ideas on the choice of the topics. And I was very, very, very glad, led by a professor. We met with him and with all your directors. And the outcome, the final outcome of the timetable we are going to deliver could be attributable to your input. We thank you so very much. Our respected Baba, from whose fountain of knowledge and operational capacity we have drank from, Alhaji Atta, and all our former colleagues, we thank you for coming in here to come and support the IG. When you have an Inspector General of Police who is not allergic to knowledge, this is the type of thing that you have. So I thank you for what you have done. Our respected Royal Father, sir, we can't thank you enough for taking our time. I think you were one of the first persons who came into this hall. Your Excellencies, the ambassadors who have come to help, please, there's still a lot to be done to assist the Nigerian police force. A police force that is not knowledgeable is prone to a lot of tendencies. And building capacity this way is one of the ways we can use to cure, some of the inadequacies that we actually have. Our Minister, we can't thank you enough, sir. Thank you for coming. Baba Smith, thank you very much, sir, for coming. To the participants, you are going to be confronted with a lot of, training ideas. We have been able to assemble about 62 facilitators from both the academia and, so the ideas you are going to come in contact with will be both academic and intellectual and also experiential. The DG SSS, my old schoolmate in ABU, he also has informed all his officers in the CG political zone where we are going to visit, just as the INEC chairman has done, to be able to come with us, and deepen the knowledge we are going to impart on you. To the participants, the IG has given you everything that you need. It accommodated you, it has encouraged you with some, small pittance to take care of your listing. So the only thing you can do is to make sure that this training is not a jamboree. You must imbibe, you must internalize everything that you are going to be given during this training program. And thank you very much, Mr. IG, for agreeing. That was part of the take-home we had with the chairman of INEC. We said, it is not every 4 years that we'll come and do things like this. We should start, by putting together the whole ideas we are going to generate during this workshop into a training manual, which we are going to incorporate with us of INEC, and now start, training our officers, especially, at the tactical level. Most of the officers who are going to benefit from this, is from the strategic and operational level. But then, we need to give our training institution at least the bookish acquaintance with ideas of, elections, so that when they come in, the practical expression of it will be very, very easy. To the journalists and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen who has come to grace this thing, our joy is full. We can't thank you enough, and we wish you journey mercies as you go back. Thank you.
Former Inspector General of Police, Dr. Solomon Arase, thank you very much for thanking the distinguished personalities who have turned up for this opening ceremony. We are just moments away from closing this opening ceremony, but we are readjusting the items on the agenda for this opening ceremony. And after the departure from the opening ceremony, there will be a tea break, and then the first training will begin. May I respectfully, before we wrap up, wrapping up means taking the national anthem, invite the distinguished personalities on the front row to please come forward for a group photograph. And I'm sure that the steps here would provide the right elevation for these photographs that we're going to be having. Special guest of honor, the host minister, the chief host, INEC chairman, retired Inspector General of Police, the representative of the Sultan, the representative of the DG of INEC, the service chiefs, the keynote speaker, Professor Lemika, and I've said again, I complained earlier about being bedazzled by this light. At the Road Safety Corps, I think it's right, I'm seeing Jonas Agu, if it's there, and then the Customs and Correctional Services as well as Immigration. Please come forward, the photographers. So please, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for a group photograph, again in commemoration of the opening ceremony. All the retired IJs, if you couldn't get a space on the front row, please, you are part of this photo session. Very quickly, let's do it quickly, ladies and gentlemen. So, some can stand on the steps. I think we have 3 steps here, and then the platform makes it the 4th step.
Our careers, our hobbies,
Nigeria Police Band, thank you very much. To close, ladies and gentlemen, please, we take the national anthem. We'll take the Nigerian national anthem. The Nigeria Police Band, please.